Hey everyone, thanks for clicking on my latest episode. So anybody who's been following me along on my social media and my YouTube channel know that I'm pulling this awful K03 turbo out of a Jetta and putting in this awesome K04 turbo. The problem is all the footage that I filmed, it's coming out to be a couple hours worth that I want to put out there. So just removing this turbo alone is an hour-and-a-half episode, and then putting in this turbo is going to be an hour-long episode. But there are a couple of important things that I wanted to show people so they didn't have to dig through 2.5 hours worth of footage. I decided that I want to separate some of the important things. One of the videos are going to be removing the exhaust manifold. Those bolts are really hard to get to. Getting the cold air intake off of the turbo. Getting the intake charge tube off of the turbo going down to the intercooler, and then removing the oil line bolts on the bottom of the K03. Those oil line bolts apparently are a common problem with being stuck, and I figured out a way to get it off without having to do too much crazy things. So what I wanted to do was start the exhaust manifold video and show you what it was like getting it out and getting to the bolts, and show you how I did it. I'm gonna start it now so you can watch that portion of the larger video. Okay, so what I'm doing now is right by the snout for the turbo is the other bolt holding this heat shield on. I'm trying to gain as much space as I can to get my hands in here. What I'm going to do is move you guys closer so you can see what I'm doing to get this manifold off. So what I'm doing is right here is the exhaust manifold. It's above the turbo. In order to get the coolant lines off, I want to have this exhaust manifold out of the way. And it's also easier to get the turbo out. Okay. That's one of them. It was actually lucky that the stud came out with it. It could have snapped, or having the studs in there can make it hard for the manifold to come off, but there it is. Okay, now there's a bolt back here behind the turbo that's holding this manifold on, and I'm hoping I can get to it. What I'm doing now is placing this mirror in a position where I can actually see that bolt, which is basically right here, which of course the mirror might be in the way. I'm going to try and sneak this socket in. What you're going to need to do is push the turbo down a little bit in order to get to the bolt. Okay, prying down on the turbo may have worked. Yep, okay. That worked, but I need to use a shorter extension. Okay, what I'm gonna try and do is get this ratchet on that bolt in one shot so I can hopefully get it to pull out, or get it to hook on. Yes. All right, the bolt's actually out. I just can't get it with my fingers, but I'm gonna move on to the rest. Okay, there's 8 bolts along the top, and you're gonna have to do them by feel. Literally, it's the only way you're gonna get to them. So I'm using a deep socket, and I'm just feeling for where these bolts are. What I've been finding is I've been locating the bolt with my thumb and then getting the socket to ride along my thumb right onto it. Now I'm also noticing these big thick washers, which I just dropped one, but they look like that. I don't know how important they are, but I can tell you that I'm gonna find all of them if needed. If not, the new exhaust manifold that I have might just come with brand new ones anyway, but they will be on there when I install it. Okay, what's happening is I was able to get all the bolts around the top and the 2 bolts behind the turbo. There's 3 bolts that are behind the coolant line for the turbo that you have to get from underneath. So I'm gonna get this car back up in the air now. Okay, we're under the car. This is the view of the oil pan in the back of the engine. If you look straight up above the axles, you'll see the bottom of the exhaust manifold. Right there is one of the bolts. There's a bolt behind there and a bolt over here. I got this one out. I have to remove that one and the other one behind there. And then if you look here, there's a coolant line. The bracket's right there, and the coolant line runs this way. I need to also get that bracket off. So that's the next thing I'm going to be doing. I can't get a view to show everybody, but that's what I'm doing. That's the next part to get the manifold off. Okay, so the easiest way I've found is to use a 12mm ratchet wrench to get to those bolts. And you're gonna have to go pretty much in between the axle and the engine block to get to it. It's kind of a nightmare. And of course, the last bolt we're doing is stuck. I got it. All right. Okay, we got the manifold loose. I'm gonna drop the car back down and show you how to take it out. Okay, now once you get all those bolts out of the manifold, you can pull the manifold right out of the top. Now that the manifold's out of the way, you can get to the rest of the stuff for the turbo. So that was the removing of the exhaust manifold. That was part of the larger video that I was gonna put out. The larger video will be put on my YouTube anyway. I just wanted to remove this section from it so you guys can see how to do that. I thought it was very important. So thank you again. I appreciate all the liking and subscribing. And if you have any comments, please leave them below, and have a very nice day, everyone. Thank you.